Part 2. We have a wonderful presentation for us today by April Lewis, and we will get started with that in just a moment. Aisha, do you want to go into the next slide, please? So as I mentioned, April Lewis will be doing our Wellness Part 2 training today. That will take up the entire session. So we won't be having sort of like that component that we've been having. There we go. And there'll be like some interactive element, a little bit of a break in there. And then at the very end, we will do a little bit of a closeout. We'll wrap up a couple details, including details about the stipend, evaluation, and an additional giveaway as well. I hope that everyone has received their DoorDash gift cards by now. If you have not, please feel free to put it in the chat or to message the CCALAC workforce Zoom account here directly, and we'll make sure that you get that DoorDash gift card. And so right now I'm going to introduce April Lewis. April Lewis empowers individuals to be the highest versions of themselves so they can be healthy, happy, and high performers. She is the CEO of the A. Lewis Academy, Inc., a workforce development coaching and consulting firm. She has an extensive healthcare background and takes an inside-out approach to personal, professional, and organizational transformation. She excelled in various roles in operations, training, and technical assistance for community health centers and PCAs before ending her tenure at the National Association of Community Health Centers. Lewis now serves as a keynote speaker, executive coach, and trainer for Fortune 500 companies, healthcare organizations, and education institutions across the nation. We're so happy to have you with us today, April, and I will turn it over to you. Welcome.
Bless you. Thank you. Thank you. It's so good to be here. Good afternoon, everyone. I am looking through the gallery view and I see that most of you do not have your camera on. And I understand sometimes that can't happen when you're at the health center or your respective organization, but I do invite you to turn your camera on if you are able. And if you're not, I completely understand and just ask that we engage in the chat as much as we can. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So Eva, if you let me know once I share it that I'm good to go. We have to get a confirmation and a confirmation times 2. Let's see. So am I good with the screen where it's just the one slide, or is it presenter view?
It's presenter view. We can see all of the
okay.
Little.
Oh, what? Is it still?
I'm not seeing anything.
Oh, wait, hold on.
No.
I accidentally clicked and let somebody in the room, so sorry.
That's okay.
Let's see. What about now? Are you able to see anything now?
I think you stopped sharing.
How did I get both? Hold on. Yeah, I seriously do this almost every day, so I do know how to work Zoom. Hold on. Let's see. Share screen, the one screen.
Perfect.
So it's just the one screen now. We're good to go?
Yeah, you're all set. Thanks.
For some reason, I'm like mirroring on both sides, but that's okay. I just want to get this minimized and get set. All right, everyone. Well, okay, so what I'm seeing, I'm gonna close this because it's showing me who's coming in the meeting room. So many things flashing in my face, and I don't want my attention to be distracted. So as Eva said, my name is April Lewis. I am so honored and excited to be with you on the last session of your cohort, which I heard has been going great. You started with the wellness session. I'm biased. I'm pretty sure that was one of the best sessions so far, just because I love talking about all things wellness, because the better you feel, the better work that you're able to do. So again, I'm a little biased, as I'm sure each one of your sessions have been great. So what we're going to cover today, we have 2 hours together. So that's a good amount of time, but like Eva said, we're going to put in a break at the halfway point. But of course, it goes without saying, if you need to step away for a bio break or get up and stretch, move your body, please do that, because it's a long time to sit still, take in information, be attentive, take notes, and all that good stuff. A fun fact about adult learners, we now have data that shows that the adult attention span starts to fade away at the 20-minute mark. And it's not that whatever you're listening to is not interesting or that it's not important information. It's just the information you're taking in is colliding with everything else that's inside your head, everything that needs your attention, every email that needs to be sent, every task that you have to do after this moment. And it's processing the information that you are hearing. So I say that to say, listening to information is more successful for you when you are very present, when you are very engaged, and if there is a true sense of motivation. So if you're in a session like this one or any other session where you're going to be present for a while, look for the part of it that's motivating to you and determine ways that you can be engaged. And we'll talk about it a little bit throughout this session, but the more present you are in this session, the less stress you will be putting on your body, less mental stress and less physical stress, because you won't theoretically be in two places at one time, because we all know we can't be in two places at one time. So with that, we're going to hop into what we're going to talk about. Today's session is called Work Well. And first and foremost, I want to let you know that you deserve to be well, you deserve to feel well, and you deserve to work well. I am giving you permission at this moment to make your wellness and your well-being a top priority. And some of you may be saying, well, I don't need permission, I do that. But as much work as I do with adults and professionals, and especially those in healthcare, you need to be reminded that your wellness and your health is in fact a priority, and it is okay to make it a number one priority. So this program, this concept rather, was designed in response to a global crisis that we entered into some time ago. As I work with organizations across the nation, as I work with leaders, as I work with managers and above, there are some constant threads that's happening across all industries, and especially across the healthcare industry. And that's stressed out employees, increasing turnover rates, and unhealthy organizations. And an unhealthy organization has nothing to do with the state of health for each person, but an unhealthy organization is one to where people aren't motivated to come to work. They are present in body, but not fully engaged and committed. The organization doesn't make employee well-being and satisfaction a top priority. So taking in the pain points that's happening across industries and healthcare organizations, I designed the Work Well program with you in mind. And the premise of the Work Well program is a three-pronged approach to improving the state of your organization. And that's focusing on the individual, the team, and the organization. I'm sure most of you have been in, and you may be in an organization right now that speaks in a very ambiguous sense of saying, we're improving the organization, we're going to change the company culture, we're going to do everything different. Well, companies, organizations, health centers, PCAs, HCCNs, any organization, it's not a robot. It's not something that can just be manipulated as a whole to do something different. Organizations are made up of people. So if you keep the focus on people, that will in turn change the organization. That's where transformation begins. So as Eva said in my bio, I take an inside-out approach to transformation. It is impossible to change the culture of an organization if you don't put the focus on each individual person, the team, and then the organization at large. So with that, when all three components, the individual, the team, and the organization work well, then you create a healthier environment and a healthier organization. Now, there are several things that have been happening. Why am I clicking so quickly? So there are several things that have been happening in our world that got us to the place where we are right now. And I cannot see most of you, and I don't know any of you. I'm sure I know some of you if I look through the name just from working in the industry, but it's safe to say that the collective of healthcare professionals right now are tired, stressed out, burnt out, overwhelmed, overworked, all of those things, which is why from the very beginning, I wanted to tell you that you deserve to be well. You deserve just because, one, you're a human, but you're also doing really, really good work for a lot of people. And you may or may not be getting told thank you and shown appreciation in a way that aligns with what you're putting out. So there are several things that lead to it. There are several things that play a role in being exhausted, in the state of your health and your well-being being impacted. There are so many things that you deal with every day, inside of work and outside of work. You have phone calls from irate clients and customers and patients. You have paperwork that needs to be done. You got the EHR, and I know you did a segment on HIT and the EHR. I vividly remember doing my session around death by 1,000 clicks and the EHR. It can be quite challenging. So you may be experiencing some physical aches and pain from sitting at your desk and working. It's a lot. And then, of course, the big C. Now, I will not say the whole name because I'm sure you have heard it enough. And it's been something, it's hovered over us. It's here with us. We don't know where it's going, what's it going to be, but it's here. And in this moment, I would like to take a moment and pause and just send out condolences and positive vibes to anyone that has been impacted negatively or lost a loved one from the big C. That has happened to me personally, so I understand the pain that you may have felt. So my condolences in my heart go out to you. So we have that, and then we have everything else that was added on because of that. So it's truly been a ripple effect from one situation, and then not to mention just life. So before 2020, in 2020 and thereafter, there are so many things that are happening that require your time and your attention and your resources that impact your wellness, that impact your well-being and how you feel. But our intent and the intent of the host organization was to see, where do we go from here? Understanding where we are, understanding everything that we're dealing with. How can we move forward to take better care of ourselves, to take better care of our colleagues, to create organizations to where the people are kept at the center of it, to keep every decision that's being made is truly in the best interest of everyone, to include the staff and the patients as well. So we want to focus on where we're going, and that's my priority for today. So before we get into that, I want to do a quick check-in, and feel free if you're on camera. I heard that you were in an engaged group, but if you're on camera and you want to share, talk to me and share with us how you're feeling right now. And we're looking at it from the state of work and how it's impacting your well-being and the state of your wellness. What do you believe will improve your well-being? And that's your overall quality of life. And I'm sure there are several things you can say. You could say $1 million would improve your well-being. And if I had it to give it to you, I promise I would. But you got a DoorDash gift card, so that can improve your well-being for sure. How does the state of your well-being impact how you show up at work? And then what I really, really would be interested in hearing is, what's one thing that you want to get from this session to improve the state of your well-being? So I'd love to hear from you all in the chat. Are you feeling good? Are you stressed out? Do you feel optimistic? What's something that you need as it relates to your well-being? And I'll kind of let Ava and the team, Eva, I'm sorry, I'm going to say your name right. I do not like mispronouncing names. I'll let you monitor the chat. But those are a few questions just to have a mindful moment where to think about anchoring yourself into this moment and what you want to get from it. I know there is a value add to being a participant in this cohort, but you're still being taken away from patient care and taken away from time with your team. So coming into this moment and setting an expectation of what you need. So as you move forward for the rest of the day and tomorrow forward, how you can be in a better state of health to do the work that you do. And so while we're together today, we're going to cover a few things. We want to review the current state of your environment, and that's for the intent to normalize just where we are and to level set the conversation with what everyone is dealing with. And I typically don't speak in absolutes, but because of the work that I do and you're in it, there are some things that are just happening across the board. And like I said, definitely in healthcare, but in so many ways it's industry agnostic, whether it's education, IT, criminal justice, in the legal field. There are some things that are happening in the work environment impacting everyone. So I want to spotlight what impacts your well-being. And I want to share with you 3 proven strategies to prevent burnout, because burnout has a direct correlation on the state of your health, on the state of your well-being. And then also learn how to become more resilient, because what we've seen over the last couple of years is our ability to bounce back when life happens, when intense situations happen, is what matters most. It's rarely about the situation at hand. And it is about how you respond to it, how you're able to recover from it. So I want to give you some strategies to be more resilient, again, at each level within the organization, for you to share with your team and the organization. And then I'm going to provide some tips to help you manage the stress that you're dealing with. And then we'll wrap it up by you creating and starting to create a personal care plan. And there are some documents that Eva is going to share with you at the end of this session with some resources for you to use and carry on. So a little bit about me, on top of what you've already heard. I have legs. I am a whole person. In this Zoom world, we are always seen from the waist up. I'm based in Tampa, Florida, where the weather is quite lovely today. And I'm pretty sure you all are in nice weather too. So many people are dealing with cold and snow and not sorry. So I am coming to you from Tampa, Florida. I have an extensive healthcare background. I've worked at a community health center. I worked at the state PCA. I worked at an IPA. And if you're not familiar with an IPA, that's an independent practice association. A lot of states partner those with PCAs or they stand alone. But what an IPA does, it partners with the payers to construct contracts that truly incentivize FQHCs for the work that they're doing for the payers, the members. So I worked at an IPA, and then as it was stated, I ended my career ended the job scene working at NAC. So some of you may have seen me from the trainings. I was in health center operations and HR training. So I am very familiar with the world that you're in. I have a very special, FQHCs have a very special place in my heart for the work that you do, and I understand your pain. And again, my intent today is alleviate some of the pain that you may be dealing with as it relates to how all the things that need your time and your energy can impact the state of your health. I am a United States Army combat veteran. If there are any veterans on the line, family members, Reserves, National Guards, thank you so much for your service. Best-selling author. I am a lover of people, tacos, and people who buy me tacos. So if you just want to use your DoorDash coupon to send some tacos to Tampa, I will not be mad, and I'm happy to give you my address in the chat box. But I do love tacos, and I really do love people. And I list a few of my certifications there and the work that I do. And to spotlight, I thoroughly enjoy learning about people and learning about human behavior. So as I serve and show up as a resource and expert, I understand how our minds operate, how what we're thinking correlates with what we're saying and what we're doing in an attempt to master ourselves so we can truly, truly, truly show up as the highest and best version of ourselves in everything that we do. So as we get into it today, there are 3 pillars that we're gonna fall within. Burnout, because it is so critical and so important, how you can manage your stress. And this is personal and work related. I am a firm believer that who you are in life is who you are in business. It's not that your leadership hat is taken at home, and you conduct family dinner as if you're in a board meeting. It's not that, but how you manage stress, how you deal with conflict, how you deal with disagreements, your values, your belief system. There's a crossover in who you are at home and who you are at work. So we want to be able to manage stress in both situations, because how many of you have ever come to work or gone to work and you really didn't have the best day, but it had nothing to do with work? It had everything to do with something outside of work. So again, we as people, we're not robots. We can't just take what we're dealing with and sit it to the side and start the day as if everything is perfect. There is a level of professionalism to where you do show up to work, but you're still human. you still have feelings, you still have things that happen in life that impact and affect your mind, mood, and emotions. So I want to give you some tips to manage stress in all areas of your life, and then strategies so you do stick around. The turnover rates are extremely high. One of my partners works for a healthcare recruitment organization, and we're doing everything we can to find candidates. The open positions are through the ceiling, and we need people that really, really want to stay in this space because they are tired, they are exhausted, their priorities in life have changed. So these are going to be our pillars today. And again, Ava, I'm going to lean on you. If there's questions that come through the chat, just stop me and let me know, so I don't have to toggle between the presentation and looking in the chat. But please stop me if you see anything that needs to be lifted up or you have questions. This is your session. So ask away, communicate, engage, get everything that you can get out of this time.
April, we actually do have one. It sounds like it'll be things that you'll touch on moving forward, but the question is, one of the things that affects our wellness is the anxiety of others being pushed on you when change is happening. How do we manage that without frustration?
The anxiety of others being pushed on you. You know, I actually appreciate the way you phrase that, because that is so true. The anxiety, other people's issues coming into your space. Well, it is your ability to set, I don't want to use the word a wall, but a barrier between what you take in that's not yours and what you receive. So understanding everything that comes your way, it can be sent in a different direction. What do I mean by that? So if the anxiety of somebody else is coming to you, can you have a conversation with them to talk through it? Or is it something that you listen to, but don't necessarily take ownership of it to where it becomes your stressor? Can you provide an outlet for them that's not just you taking on their anxiety? Because when people are stressed out and they are dealing with anxiety, they will go to somebody. They want someone to listen. They want to complain. They want to dump everything on someone else. But none of us, unless you're in a therapy or behavioral health setting, are really dumping grounds. So that's where those boundaries really come in, and listening without absorbing it, creating an outlet for them to share and express their concerns and thoughts elsewhere, or then even setting boundaries to where you say that you may not be the best person to have this conversation, or you don't have a solution, and helping them find one. So let me know if that helps for you, and I could definitely go deeper if need be. Eva, thank you so much.
Hi, April. This is Irina Pagosian, the person who asked the question.
Yes.
And thank you so much for answering my question. I want to clarify a little bit on what I was questioning about. Okay. You know, sometimes when your peers are anxious because collectively as a team, we're trying to do something, a change that we're trying to manage, and one or several of your team members are more anxious about the change, and they start emailing you all the time, like 8 emails within a fraction of 5 minutes to do something that they're requiring you to do, that your department to do. And you are working on it, but that anxiety starts to kind of push on you, and you're trying to be anxious, and it's like a triple effect. How do you deal with that? How do you manage that? How do you tell them, okay, we are working on it, it's going to happen, but without frustration, because that anxiety just seems to kind of continue on. And then when you do speak up about it, there is a sense of, well, you're not accepting my need for urgency. And that can be quite frustrating. At least for me, it is frustrating, because I get the priorities. For example, workforce, recruiting. I am a human resource officer. So my team works on getting people in, and all kinds of people. Providers are a priority, so when we get a resume or CV, we try to get to them the same day, but it's very frustrating when you're getting all these emails, all these phone calls. Did you do it? Did you get it done? So that creates anxiety in us, in our department. So how do you propose we deal with that without, being harsh or being frustrated or, burned out?
Yes. That's a great question. I'm sure it's something everyone can relate to. So the analogy I use when it comes to your inbox, that is your email is your inbox. That's the box that someone is coming into. So the onus is on you to how you respond. And it really boils down to managing expectations. If there is an ask that has a deadline, then the expectations are managed on on whatever that stated deadline is. So if you have a colleague, if someone gave you a project or something that needs to be done, and then 1 hour later they're asking on a status of it, then there wasn't a clearly stated end time. So managing the expectation and saying, if someone hasn't asked of you, then your response can be, when do you need this by? Or when is your deadline? So that way, that person tells you when they need it, and you can say, I can meet that deadline or propose another time based on whatever's in your plate. And it's never to be insensitive, but you only have so much time, so much bandwidth, so much emotional bandwidth. And so if there are things that need to be done, then allocating the right time to work on them, making sure you have a clear deadline to complete it is how you're going to be able to protect your space and protect your peace. And then also let the person see, I'm on this, no need to keep following up, no need to keep emailing because we set this time. But if it was just thrown out and say, hey, I need this, and then constantly ask, because there is no fixed time to start it and end it. I had a mentor once tell me that every idea, every ask needs a start and end date. So if there's stuff that's coming into your inbox that needs your attention, now that's a project or a task that you have to manage. So it has to be placed in your already existing workflow somewhere. So getting clear on where to do it, what needs to be done, who do you need to follow up with, that's how you're going to better be able to manage be responsive to your colleague, but then also not take on anxiety because you'll know what you're working with.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you for that. I was doing a talk in Virginia in November, and that was a question. We spent about 30 minutes talking about emails and boundaries and emailing on the weekend and constantly following up and what to do if you're on vacation and something comes through. And there are few companies that have a stated rule about if someone's on vacation, do or don't send them emails, but it really boils down to just that communication between you and your colleagues so those expectations can be met, because we all know when someone needs something, they expect you to stop everything happening in your world to get it, as if you don't have other things going on. So just asking that question, when do you need this by? And then you looking at everything on your plate very honestly and saying, yes, I can meet it, or no, but I can get it by then. It's a great question there. So going to the burnout and stress, like how can we tell the difference between the two? Because there truly is a difference. It's like the question, which came first, the chicken or the egg? And one day I went down this rabbit hole on the internet to see like, what's the answer to this question? And I found that based on these enzymes that were found in the egg, that the chicken came first. And I was like, well, where did the chicken come from? So you see, you can keep going around the world. But when it relates to burnout and stress, these are some of the areas of our life that cause us stress. Home, work, our community, family, physical things that's happening in our physical body, and the state of our emotions. And when you look at what causes stress, it is what causes burnout. It's the same thing. And it's the accumulation of all of the above. Burnout is really a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. So it's when stressors are happening in our life, and like the previous example, we don't deal with it. We keep let it going on and on and on. And that's when we burn out. So it is truly allowing those stressors, whether it's a person, whether it's a thing, it's a project, whatever the case may be, continuing to pile up. And then we get to that place of burnout. And burnout does not discriminate. If you remember years ago when burnout was spoken about, it was always provider burnout. And I believe now that there is the diagnosis is where it's provider burnout. I'm not even sure if it speaks to other disciplines, but burnout does not discriminate if you work at the front desk, if you're the COO, if you're the site administrator, if you're IT. If you allow stress to stay going and not deal with it, anyone is susceptible to being burnt out. So it's not just providers, it is anyone. Each discipline, each person within your organization has their different stressors. So you can get burnt out. So providers may burn out for one state of stressors and administrators for another, but anyone can burn out. So I'm sure at this point you all know that, but burnout does not discriminate. And what causes it? What causes these stressors in the workplace that we deal with all the time to ultimately get someone to the state of where they are burning out and they are burnt out? Unfair treatment, excessive workload, lack of support, unrealistic deadlines, depersonalization. That's when you're just not, you're over it. That's a term that we can use, where you're not connected to the work. You're going through the motions to where there is no intrinsic motivation for what you're doing and the people that you're serving, that you're just checking the box and getting through the day. Lack of buy-in. If you feel like you're on an island and you come up with great ideas to make the workplace better, but you're having to make changes by yourself, or if you may be the one and only person that feels we shouldn't send emails to someone on vacation and mark them as urgent and no one else agrees with it, that's exhausting. So that's a stressor that'll be added to your list that can lead to burnout. And then not being recognized or rewarded for the work that you do. The latest data shows about 40% of full-time employees say that they would do more if they were shown more appreciation and recognition. Something as simple as saying thank you. It doesn't always have to be like a DoorDash gift card. Like, you should have saw me before we started the session. I am thrilled about that, super giddy, because one, it didn't have to be done. Two, I may or may not have a slight addiction to DoorDash because I prefer food to come to me than me cook it. And three, but it just shows that this organization appreciates what we're doing. And that speaks volumes for the character of this company. So the way it made you feel to get that gift card, to get food, something that you can either use for yourself or give to someone else.
It just came through right now. Yes, it just came through right now. Sorry, I was given.
Remember that as you look at your colleagues and your team. So you don't have to be in a leadership position to appreciate someone on your team. You can tell anyone thank you. You can stick a Post-it note on their workstation, on their monitor. You can stop them. And now we're wearing masks, so we can't just extend a smile, which sometimes just warms someone's heart, but just to stop them and say, thank you, job well done. You dealt with that great. It really goes a long way, because remember, we got all the things happening with the big C and in life. So every little bit of positive reinforcement matters. So I would love to hear from you, even just looking at this list. What are you dealing with at your workplace? Is there one of them that's really top of mind that is what you would add in your bucket as a stressor right now that's happening in your world? And unpacking the unfair treatment, this is something that sometimes is done that we may or may not realize is happening. If you have multiple sites and one site has access to, shorter days or ice cream days or any type of privilege, and another site doesn't, well, the site that's not getting that same privilege, that can be received, right, as them not getting fair treatment. And so the question could be, well, why are we doing the same thing and not getting fair treatment? So that's a mental stressor right there. And as long as it keeps going on, they'll continue to think about it. So if you're constantly thinking about something that you don't like, that stress, excessive and prolonged stress, leads to burnout. So here's some data as to where we are in the world right now. Some of this you may be familiar with, but some of the healthcare industry impacts of burnout is that 60 to 75% of clinicians are reporting exhaustion, depression, sleep disorders, and PTSD, and that's post-traumatic stress disorder. PTSD happens. I appreciate where the world is now realizing that it's not just something that happens to veterans and those that have gone to war, but the T means anyone can suffer from, because trauma, just like burnout, doesn't discriminate. And any traumatic event that happens to you, you can be susceptible to post-traumatic stress disorder. 20% of healthcare workers have quit since 2020. I'm not sure what's happening in your organization, but how has your workload shifted? How many people, oh my goodness. How many people have left your organization since then? Oh, I'm gonna stop sharing. I lost my screen. See, stressful situations like this. Well, this isn't really stressful because I have become so comfortable with Zoom that we've seen it all. Eva, am I good on your side? Are we back?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Make sure I get us back to where we were. Okay, perfect. So 20% of healthcare workers have left since 2020. So with that, when you think about your organization, who did you start 2020 with, and then who left? So if a position is open, then someone else is covering down, because just because we have a team member leave does not mean that the workflow or the workload lessens. Some other things happening in the industry is that an increase in workplace errors and unsafe environments due to the environment, the stressful environment, less people, and there's a severe shortage of nurses across the globe. There is a severe shortage of nurses. So some of these things may be hidden close to home, and they're actually happening at your health center. Now, this is a long quote, but I really wanted to add this to this presentation because it was from Dr. Zhao at the National Academy of Medicine. All health systems need to invest in preventative strategies and making system level change. The premise of this cohort aligns with what this recommendation was. It's not just one level, it's not just the clinicians, it's not just operations, it's not just finance. It is a system level of change that's needed for us to respond to where we are right now. He asked for hospitals and health systems to create chief wellness officers to oversee the well-being of hospital staff, to reduce demands on physicians, dealing with technology, and focusing on caring for the patients. Now, he said hospitals, but this is very relevant for all health systems. This is very relevant for FQHCs. And to create a work environment to where your staff feels safe in speaking up about the state of their mental health. What we're going to get into next is how can you recognize burnout, because everyone isn't going to come to you and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Supervisor, I'm burnt out, so I'm taking some time off. Or I'm completely stressed, so I need to go. Or, you know, I'm going to quit right now because I can't take it. So it doesn't happen like that. So it serves us well to where we can see it, not just in ourselves, but where we can see it in our colleagues so we can be of support. So if you yourself or your team members are complaining of exhaustion, repeat complaining of exhaustion, just not able to get the energy to show up and connect and engage the way you want to, that may be a sign of burning out. Complaints of headaches or muscle aches caused by stress and tension. The body tells us what's going on the inside of us, and it may come out if you don't have a direct injury of some sort to where you're feeling it in your body. You may have someone that's constantly calling out, or if they're in a remote environment, that they're logging off early or never have their camera on. Decreased motivation. You know, I saw a quote that says, you know, leaders need to stop saying that jobs are like families, because it's not, or it was, I actually didn't agree with it. But what I took from the quote was, when it comes to families, you know your family members. You know who's going to act a certain way, probably at the dinner table or Thanksgiving dinner. You know who may or may not cause some distress. You know who's going to be the funny person. You know who's going to be the person asking for help, or you may be the person that everyone comes to solve all of their problems, literally financial problems and other problems. So you know your family members. Your work family is like that. You know if something is, for lack of a better word, off with one of your colleagues. And in these times, it really, really, really serves us well to do those check-ins. And I have some questions that I'm going to share with you to make that easier and flow more naturally, to check in on your colleagues if you recognize that they may be burning out. Cynical or negative attitude. Again, there are some people who just aren't positive. There are some people who aren't happy. They don't have high energy. And then there are others where they once were and then they stopped, or the cynicism has increased. You know, the complaining has increased, the everything is bad. And, you know, so It's not always that this person is just negative or in a bad mood. They could be mentally exhausted and burning out, and this is how it's showing up. Some other signs may include detachment from work in the team, decreased productivity. They're not getting done as much as they used to get done. Or if you have someone that's constantly missing deadlines and you've spoken to them, you've provided some development resources to better manage their projects and their calendar. If you're just tired, you're not going to be able to produce. If your mind is stressed out with everything that's going on, you can't be present, you're not going to be able to produce. So if it's separate from a skill issue that they can't manage their work and their task load, then that means that it's something else to where they can't produce. That's all productivity is. You're producing the work that you're being asked to do. So being mindful of who's getting done things that should be getting done on a regular basis or not. Procrastinating and taking longer to complete tasks, it aligns with productivity. Again, if you're tired in your mind, your body, and your spirit is tired, it's going to show up in your work. If you have someone that's having an outburst, whether with a patient or with a colleague, or you're receiving patient and team complaints, these are signs of someone that may be dealing with burnout. These are signs for yourself that you may be dealing with burnout. So if we see it, or in a way to prevent it more than anything, what can we do? Well, first, we're going to focus on you. What can you do as an individual to prevent burnout? And the first is to be self-aware, to know what you're feeling, to know what may be the cause of your stress. If you end your day, like even the example before, and I'm sorry, your name is just that quickly slipped my mind, but to specifically say the emails coming through my inbox, the high anxiety emails, the constant acts, the requests, that is stressing me out, or that could stress me out. How do I stop it from causing me to be stressed? That's very specific. So you know the source of the stressor. If you find yourself at the end of the day and you're tired, or when you go on your lunch break, you feel like you want to go in your car and take a nap, pinpoint where is it coming from. Really take a moment and process your day and ask yourself, what is stressing me out? Who is stressing me out? And then that way you can deal with that very specific solution. Because when someone says, my job is stressful, yes, it is, but what exactly about the job is stressful? That is really getting to, and if I got any PMPs on the line, the root cause of the situation, a root cause analysis is what is really causing the stress. And then that way you can deal with it and you can look for solutions. And looking for solutions that are in your sphere of influence and control. If we look at something that's stressing us out, we can say the big C is stressing all of us out, but none of us can snap our fingers and make it go away. So it's not in our sphere of influence and control, or not control. We can influence it by doing our part. So if you look at situations that are stressing you out and you're able to say, this activity, this person, this part of the job, what can I do about it? And then whatever you realize that you cannot do anything about it, that's where you have to detach from it. Because at that moment, you're stressing yourself out about something that you can't particularly change. And then you see, can you accept it and continue to move on? Not agree, but accept. Accepting that Monday mornings may be more hectic than Wednesday afternoons. And although you don't want to start your Monday morning or start your week hectic, although you'd rather come in and talk to everybody and drink your coffee, but you know that Mondays are going to be hectic. We can't tell patients, don't come in Monday morning because I can't deal with you or your problem. So we have to accept the situation. That doesn't mean you agree with it. That doesn't mean you agree with the scheduling. That doesn't mean you agree with the process, the workflow, or the volume, but you accept it because then you decrease the stress in you. Because as the saying goes, it is what it is. If you're required to go through a training, you may not want to. It may be redundant. It may not even be a good training, but you have to because of your role. Just accepting it, and then your stress will decrease instead of thinking of all the ways that you don't want to do it and inside your head when complaining about it. So that's what acceptance is. Being honest about what you need. Once you've realized what's causing you your stress, saying, do you need additional resources? Do you need someone else on your team to step up? Do you need a different way of doing the work? Really asking for what you need. And people who have a heart of service don't do this as easy as some others. Because people with the heart of service, specifically in healthcare, your tolerance may be higher than others and you deal with it for the greater good. But there is never anything wrong with you keeping your priority, keeping your wellness and well-being a priority and asking for help or asking to consider a different way of doing things. And as a professional, we go in with solutions. We have a true case study. We have the situation, we got solutions and the benefit. And we all know PDSA, we can try it. If it doesn't work, then we'll rinse and repeat as needed. So being honest about what you needed. Boundaries and compartmentalization. Similar to the example we were discussing earlier, boundaries may be, I check my email X amount of times throughout the day. I block my time to look at emails. I started doing that in my business. And not only did it increase my productivity, I completed projects quicker, but I found myself less reactive to small things that didn't matter. Because I'm a very responsive person. I don't like anyone asking me for something and I'm like, oh, well, let me just get it to you. Because if I'm over here working and I see you ask for something really quickly, oh, I can quickly do that. But that quickly is moments taken away from my focus and my attention. So now I've split my brain from one thing to the next. So establishing that boundary to say, I'm going to block this 30 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever your schedule allows, block this time and just focus on emails. You're present in emails, you're attentive to your inbox, nothing more, nothing less. That will help you be in a greater state of calmness when you're just doing your emails or just closing charts or just doing whatever your respective tasks, because we can't multitask. I know you're looking at me and saying, April, yes, I can. And I'm looking back at you saying, no, you can't, because the human brain can only focus on one thing at a time with all of its focus. You can split your focus, but that's not multitasking. That's just multi-doing things. So keeping yourself in its natural homeostasis state of balance and being present in the moment and focusing on the task at hand, stress, anxiety, high blood pressure, it just comes down because you're just here. You're not here and kind of sort of there. Very present in what you're doing. Compartmentalization is everything is in a box. Work has its box. Life, components of your life each have their box. When we blend them in and out, it causes us to be stressful, to be stressed out. So taking care of yourself it's not that you're not being compassionate or concerned about every area, but again, when you're in the workspace, you're in the workspace. And when you come out to go into the home space, be in the home space, all of it is about being present in what you're doing. That is the surefire way to increase your well-being. Our stress is what's leading us as Americans right now for our diseases, for what's leading us down the road for therapy. Therapists are dealing with 60, 90-day waiting periods because we are stressed. There are so many things that need our attention and so many things that need action. But what we can do is respond in the healthiest way possible and seek and protect your peace. You have to go get your peace. All of these solutions will help you find your peace. Meeting with your team and saying, we're only going to schedule meetings on X date. I don't know your workflow. I don't know what's possible. I'm happy to do a strategic planning session and see how you could make your workplace more efficient. But seeking your peace is establishing these boundaries, is saying this causes me stress. So what can I do to eliminate that? Maybe blocking time to go outside for fresh air, go for a walk. That's seeking your peace. And protecting your peace is if in this moment you're going to take a 10-minute mindful break, if you're going to go eat lunch away from your desk, protecting your peace is not taking your phone if you're able to. If you're on call or emergency may be coming through, of course, take your phone. But if you know you don't have to be on call or anything like that, can you put a quick take a 10-minute timer and just disconnect from your phone? Protecting your peace is closing the inbox when you're working on something. Because if it pops up, again, that split focus, you're going to look at it. So these are some things that you can do to prevent yourself from burning out. Now let's look at what we can do as a team. Consistently implementing strategy number 1. So you make up the team. So if all the individual yous are protecting your peace and setting your boundaries, and so each one of you is in a more balanced state, then we can come as a team and create balanced workloads. One person should not feel like they're doing the job of two. And I saw in your packet that you all are encouraged to take a very objective approach to a balanced workload. I love that, because it's not just something that you can say. It's really looking at the task at hand, looking at the deliverables, looking at the expectations, looking at the requirements, comparing checklists for day-to-day operations. Is the workload balanced? Now, there may be some variance, or there will be some variance based on skill set, but again, one staff person should never feel that they are doing the job of two. So that is imbalance. So looking at it very objectively and assigning tasks evenly and distributing it evenly across the team will help prevent burnout. Optimizing processes, procedures, and systems. There are some things that you do every day, the same way, all the time, over and over again. How can you make that easier? Or how can you take something that's frequently occurring, doing an audit of what's happening, and create a process for it, create a procedure? This is essentially your workflow. And I remember when I would go out in the field and I would do the workflow analysis, and from check-in to check-out, I would just watch and write what a patient was doing. And I would create a Visio chart of if this, then this, and then we were able to see where the bottlenecks. Is it that we're spending too much time at check-in? Is the triage room too far away from the next exam room? Little things like that, stuff that I'm sure you're doing, but I definitely want to remind you of creating a system. You know, there's an acronym in the business world that says a system is save yourself time, energy, and money. Save yourself time, energy, and money. How can I make this duplicatable and easy, leveraging technology and maximizing on a procedure? Another strategy is to leverage individual strengths. When a team member is operating to the highest point of their skill set, they are less likely to be burnt out. Why? Because it's what they do well. So they aren't straining and going against the grain to do something that's not in their skill, that doesn't come naturally, or that they're not interested in. Now, I say that knowing all of the work that we do isn't going to be interesting. There are parts, even as an entrepreneur, there are parts of running my business that I absolutely dread, like my tax strategist in my inbox right now, but it has to be done. But if you know your strength is really connecting with patients, or creating strategic approaches, or working in the EHR and setting up templates, as leaders and managers, we want to make sure we know our team members' strengths so we can leverage them. Because in leveraging one person's strength, you're going to help balance out the team. If you have one person that does spreadsheets so much better than the next and they enjoy it, then instead of getting 5 people to do it, how can we leverage this person's strength? Now, this isn't, oh, they're good at it, so we're going to give them more work to do. Because we all know about that. It's not that, but this is where those conversations and those really solid team meetings come into place, and saying that you're good at this, you enjoy it. And I'm saying enjoy, not that we want to just do what makes us enjoy, that's enjoyable at work, but I'm saying it that we're humans and you're working with humans. So you can have those conversations. And if there's an area that someone shines in, how can you leverage that for the greater good of the team? Minimizing your meetings just to meet. It is a leading cause of stress. At a session earlier this week, and one of the VPs was asking, how can you prevent unnecessary meetings? Well, what's the purpose of the meeting? What is it that needs to come from the meeting? We all know Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Start with the end in mind. After this meeting, we will what? And then from that what, is an in-person meeting necessary? Can this be communicated via email? Can we go to our shared site? Can we communicate via chat? What's the best modality to have this meeting? And then you can determine if the meeting is necessary or not. And if you do need to meet, make sure that the message is clear, that it's concise, that it's direct. Just because meeting is when people leave out feeling like they had 30 minutes of lost productivity. Just because meeting is, oh, we meet every Tuesday just because we've always done it. But do you need to? Is it truly moving the needle? Is it really getting you closer to your strategic goals? Is it really advancing your site, your location, improving the patient experience? That's a just, if it's not, then it may be a just because meeting. And that's just another layer of stress, because while you're in a just because meeting, then you're not doing work that needs to be done. And the clock continues to click. And during the meetings, when you're having those one-on-ones as leaders, asking open-ended questions. The art of communication is slowly becoming lost in our society, and I am on a mission to bring it back. Check-ins and one-on-ones, of course, there are layers to it. They are even going to the example we were discussing earlier. Your level of trust and respect for your team member has a lot to do with how you interact and connect with them. Your level of respect for yourself has a lot to do with how you interact and connect with other people. So with your one-on-one meetings, you're, as a leader, being open, actively listening and being open-minded about what they're saying, asking open-ended questions, and providing coaching and support. A one-on-one meeting, the structure of that is truly a direct impact into a team member's engagement and performance. That is the opportunity to where it should be a safe place to where they can share ideas like, how can you improve everyone's well-being? Because we know team members talk. So if there's something that's happening in the organization and or just within the team and it's stressing everyone out there talking about, if it is that one person that's constantly sending or asking and 5 minutes later they're checking on it again, everybody is talking about it. And you may or may not get that feedback in a survey or doing an all team meeting or all staff meeting, but in a one-on-one, how can you create the space to hear that good feedback? And then we bring it to the organizational level. Now, I'm not sure how many CEOs, excuse me, how many members of the C-suite are here, but the organization has a role in preventing burnout, just as a team and just as the individual. So some things that the organization can do, consistently implementing 1 and 2. So that means you as individuals and the team consistently focus on the things that you can do to prevent burnout will just naturally make the organization better. And remembering that it's human first, employees second. We are not leading and working with widgets or robots. We are dealing with people with real lives, with real minds, moods, emotions, and stressors. So we cannot look at work as just work that's being done by these things. These are humans. So when you think about it as a leader, and I feel all of us are leaders in some ways because we have to lead ourselves first before we lead another person. But when you think about it as a human, what do you need? We know about Maslow's hierarchy of need, where he says if our physiological needs, that is what we need first. We need to feel safe. We need somewhere to eat, somewhere to live, and to be warm. We need to be okay. And then we go up to where we need to feel love and feel connected and feel like we have a sense of belonging. And then we keep going up to there and we have purpose. And then we reach this place of self-actualization to where who I am, what I enjoy, align with what I do. That's one example of what do humans need. But then if you just look at yourself, what gets you excited? What motivates you? What stresses you out? What do you worry about? With your job, when you think about what are you doing, what do you need to be great? Who do you need to support you? So keeping the mindset of human first, employee second will absolutely help you prevent burnout amongst your team. Setting clear strategic vision and sharing it at all levels. There is nothing more exhausting than if a staff person cannot see themselves in the big picture. Every level of the organization should see the work that they're doing is advancing the mission of the company. One activity I used to do is take an index card, and on the front of that index card, write your company's mission statement. And on the back of the index card, have that staff person write how their role, their specific duties and tasks and responsibilities advance the mission statement. It is a great opportunity for somebody to see, just because I sit here at this desk doing this, I'm part of the bigger picture. So what I do matter. And without me, it wouldn't get done. It is a phenomenal team building exercise. And even from a personal development standpoint, it can activate your intrinsic motivation to do great work. Because you see, oh, I matter. This is not just me doing something to do it. It's actually moving this mission of this whole organization, which is directly connected to the community. So it's truly a ripple effect. Another strategy as it relates to preventing burnout is addressing and acknowledging social issues that may impact your staff's engagement, trust, and performance. When we look back to some of the things that was happening in 2020, we were almost in the middle of a dual pandemic. We were dealing with the pandemic, and then we were dealing with the racial issues. If there's things that's going on in the world and you know everyone is talking about it, it's impacting people on different levels, personal levels, ignoring it can lead to stress and burnout, because employees and your team members are going to ask and wonder if you are concerned. Because again, going back to human first, if it's happening in the world, if it's a global situation, then it's affecting them as a person, and they're coming to work. They just can't not be impacted by a global issue. So acknowledging it and realizing that it may impact their engagement, trust, and performance, which is a direct correlation to infusing your culture with DEI initiatives, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we have to remember that DEI is more than a program. It's not just having one group of people speak on a topic or just establishing a committee to get it done. It is a cultural change. Your culture should be one that is diverse, to where it is inclusive of everyone and that everyone is treated equitably. That is the culture, and not just a program. Programs are, we're doing this, it's an activity, we're meeting, which is good, but the intent is to take what you learn, take those resources, and actually have a shift in the culture. And the culture is made up of the people. So as we begin to wrap this up, and I'm going to give us open up for questions and comments, and then give you a bio break. I want you to remember that burnout does not happen overnight. You don't wake up and just be burnt out. There are things that have needed your attention, and things that have been stressing you out and your team members out before you get to the place of burnout. And being aware and honest about what you need, that self-check-in, that mindful moment with yourself. Even if you need to look in the mirror and say, self, what do you need? I like to break things down like that simply. Because if you're feeling a certain type of way, there is something going on. So being honest and asking for what you need within the organization. Realizing that it doesn't look the same for everyone. So although one team member may look tired or exhausted, there just may be one that is not meeting deadlines. And then that's where you're cued to have that one-on-one, ask that open-ended question. There are several factors that can lead to burnout. It's not just workload. And we're going to get into some of the workload stressors in part 2, or the second segment. Several things lead to burnout. So being aware and acknowledging all of them, and just keeping your mind open and being alert while doing your job and taking care of good people is how you can catch it. Preventing burnout requires honesty, support, and change at all levels. It's not just the providers, it's not just the managers, it is every person to be there for each other, because you're all linked together to provide service to your patients every day and to be a presence in the community every single day. And it can happen to anyone, not just providers. And when it comes to burnout, empathy and compassion go a long way. Realizing, again, anybody can get tired. We're all dealing with stress. Everyone is dealing with the big C, plus everything that comes with that, and life. Everyone gets a pass at this moment, which it shouldn't have taken this for us to realize that, but we all deal with things on a regular basis. When you're interacting with someone, you see the person and you're experiencing the words that they're saying. There's a whole world behind them that you can't see. And depending on the state and level of their emotional intelligence, you may or may not know some of it, but just know and be compassionate, and remembering that they are dealing with some things in life at any given moment. So you will get a resource today with a few tips that I put together for help you managing your stress. I think you're gonna put it in the chat. No, the Eva, the community.
I'll be adding it under the resources in the chatter.
Yes. And chatter. I'm like, I know I heard the word chat, but your online community. So these are just a few things that you can do. I have this taped to my refrigerator to remind me some basic stuff: exercising, reading, whatever your spiritual practices are, changing your scenery, little things like that to help you manage your stress throughout the day. And so with that, I will pause and see if there are any questions or comments or concerns that I can answer before I give you what do we want to do, Eva? 5-minute bio break? Eva.
Yeah, 5 minutes is good.
Okay, well, I will stay here if anybody wants to ask a question, and then we'll start back up in exactly 5 minutes. So let's do 4:13. Thank you all so much for your attention. over, oh, that scares me every time. Stress
April,
over.
should we be seeing your screen right now?
Yes, I'm guessing you're not. Hold on. All righty. Oh, I didn't share it, that's why. Okay, let me know.
Yeah, there we go.
All good, and it's just the one window?
Yeah, all good.
All good. All right, thank you so much. You're an excellent co-host. So we're gonna talk about managing stress and becoming more resilient. So we've covered a few things. Now we're gonna talk about the resiliency, tips to manage stress. You're gonna get these stress management sheet from Eva, and then also creating a personal care plan. And then we are continuing to have fun, learn, and be well more than anything. So we hear the word all the time, but it really, stress, the better you understand it, the better you can manage it. And like I said, stress is your body's response to anything that requires your attention or action. So an email coming in your inbox can cause a stressful response. I used to work with someone who used to email, and she would use capital letters like overkill. And I told her, I said, in the digital space, capitalizing something is screaming. So I don't like to be screamed at. So if you could not use capital letters, that would be great. And so she didn't realize it. And she was just that type of person to where everything needed to be, kind of over the top and really in your face. But she didn't realize how us on the receiving end were feeling. So the subject line, words throughout the email, it's all capital, it's bold. It was just completely unnecessary because we can just read what it says. So that is stress. How I responded to getting that email or those emails was stress. When you have someone knock on your door or come to you or call you and say, hey, I need to talk to you about something. Can we go in private? At that moment, you're going to have a response to it because you don't know what they're going to talk about. Having to meet a deadline today at 5 o'clock, but this is the last day of the cohort and you knew 2 hours are going to be spent with April Lewis, that's stress because you're thinking about what you need to do. If you're working from home or when you get home and all you want to do is sit down and kick back and your little person or your doggy or your neighbor or whoever comes in and they need you, that's stress because you have to respond to it. So anything and everything that requires your attention and requires action on your part is stress. So that is why the world is so stressful, and it shows up in so many different ways in our body, our mind, our emotions, and our spiritual practices, financially, professionally, socially. Stress affects us in a multitude of ways. And I won't go through all of this because you'll be getting the slides, but I want you to see how it can show up. In your body, you may feel it. In your mind, you may have what we call the monkey mind. And the monkey mind, if you think about a monkey, they go from branch to branch to branch. And your thoughts can be like that, to where you think about this and then you think about that. Oh, I need to go to the grocery store. I need to send this email. I have to check on this. This report is due, and it's all over the place. And you're not just centered and focused. Emotionally, having mood swings, anxiety, sadness, especially if it's unexplained. Your spirituality, if you feel hopeless, again, that depersonalization, you could be stressed out if you feel like there is no way out. If you're saying this is never going to end and we're stuck and it's really weighing you down. Financially, have you just lost control of your spending habits? Are you overspending on DoorDash because you don't have the energy to go in there and cook? That's not my story. I don't want to say I wish it, but I just don't like cooking. I like eating. But if you're overspending because you are stressed out and you're shopping a lot, impulse buying, when we overspend and we shop and we do things like that, we're getting little releases of dopamine in our brain. That's that feel-good hormone, that feel-good chemical. So if you're not dealing with your stress and your brain, which is going to always want you to go into a state of pleasure, if it says, oh, buy that bag, buy those shoes, get this off of Amazon, at that moment, you feel better. So you're masking what's really stressing you out. And the brain does not know the difference. The brain is just want to protect you and release that chemical so you do feel good. So instead of doing it on Amazon or in DoorDash or going to Neiman's Market or something like that, or going to Target, oh my goodness, and overspending, understanding, then addressing the fact that you are stressed out and finding another outlet, which we'll get into that later. So this is how stress can affect you. It can show up, we've talked about in your work, and socially, dealing with isolation. If you don't feel like being bothered because you are exhausted, if at the end of the day, when you leave work, you don't even have the energy to respond to text messages from friends and families, and you don't want to communicate with anybody on social media or anything, you could be stressed out. So stress speaks to us. How we're responding speaks to us. And we are better off when we can hear it, when we know how it show up so we can respond. So here's some facts about stress and work. Healthcare expenditures are nearly 50% greater for workers who report high levels of stress. The cost of care to provide healthcare in the nation is 50% higher because of work-related stress. It is a cycle if we don't deal with it. And you're in healthcare, so for those of you that may do intakes and you're dealing with people that's dealing with stress and anxiety, high levels of blood pressure, responding unhealthily by maybe eating more, which is attributing to obesity, high BMI, it is a cycle that if it's not stopped, it will continue to repeat itself. 1/4 of employees view their job as the #1 stressor in their life, the job. And think about how many hours you spend at work per day, how many days per week compared to when you're home. 1/4. 3/4 of employees believe that workers today have more on-the-job stress than just a generation ago. So think about your parents, think about, people that are just one generation removed from you, siblings, other people in your family, one generation, more stress. Problems at work are more strongly associated with health complaints than any other stressor in life, to include money and family problems. So the job can be more stressful than me not being able to pay my bills or not having enough money, or, the one cousin that's always calling or heckling and driving you crazy, or uncle. It is the job. So stress at work is truly something that is impacting all of us. And there are several things happening inside the workplace, in every workplace, in every industry, that are increasing levels of stress amongst teams, amongst colleagues, and amongst people. You see several listed here on your screen, some of which we've already talked about: workload, the lack of life balance, management styles, organizational changes. That's constantly changing things and not actually going through a change management process. There is a process to roll out change to where you get that buy-in, to where it happens strategically. And I understand that some things have happened quick and it just comes down the pipeline. But if there is a change, if leaders are realizing you're getting ready to go in a different direction, or we're pivoting or adjusting, go through a change management process so we don't feel like you leave anyone behind. You get that collective input and you roll it out. And then you always want to establish a mechanism to do a check and balance. How can we look back and see if this works, how it's working? What does the team feel about it? DEI concerns, conflicting demands, communication, processes and workflow, lack of autonomy, which is really big, especially if you have independent team members. If you have those team members who sometimes are entrepreneurs, they are inside the workforce or the workplace, and you can tell them what to do and they'll go forth and be great, come up with great ideas, manage multiple projects, get things done. Let them have their autonomy. We've all, I believe, if you haven't, let us know, everyone has worked for a micromanager. There is literally nothing more annoying than working for a micromanager. Now, if you are a micromanager and you're on this line, it's okay. Today is a new day. The key is realizing, why are you micromanaging? Is it a bad hire? Is it a misfit? Is it a gap in skill set? Is it a leadership style that should be adjusted? Is it lack of trust? Again, the root cause is where we want to get with pretty much everything in life. So micromanaging is just a byproduct of something or some other things. So really getting to that and addressing that, it'll self-correct being a micromanager. Because when you're dealing with professionals who are skilled, who are qualified, and who are capable, then there isn't a need for micromanagement unless some things have been shown to where they can't get it done. But then that's what needs to be addressed, not you, if you are a micromanager, stressing yourself out to watch them every step of the way, to check in 5 and 6 times within the hour. So get to the root cause of the issue and address that. Not having a sense of belonging, that's where that inclusive sense of inclusion comes in. Your team members should feel like they belong at the organization. The organization the leadership should look like the team and look like the community. So there is a sense of belonging within it. Everyone's voice should be heard at the table. It's not that you take everyone's voice and do and act on every idea, but creating a space for people to share feedback, questions and comments. That's what's having your voice being heard mean, and acknowledging what's being said. And sometimes that acknowledging and saying, thank you for your feedback, that isn't something we can address right now, or this isn't something we can roll out right now. It boils down to communication. There are a few things that organizations call on me to support them with that cannot be anchored in communication. I've yet to find one, because it's either communication with yourself, the stories and narratives that are creating in your head and how they're showing up at work, or the disconnecting communication with other people. When you have strong communication and people can feel like they're being heard, that's when you really can change the culture inside your organization. That's a whole nother training. Work that's not meaningful is a stressor. And in our world, in your world, in the community health center world, it is very meaningful work. The essence of it, providing affordable quality healthcare to everyone, regardless of their ability to pay. It doesn't get much more meaningful than that. But does each person feel that in their task, in their roles and responsibilities? Again, going back to that index card activity, can they see themselves in the mission? Can they see that they're actually making this community healthier? Even if it's from technology, if they're in the pharmacy, if they're in the front desk, if they're the courier, do they feel that their work is meaningful? The leadership style, leadership being disconnected, leadership coming to the sites and seeing everyone, leadership following up, leadership setting a clear vision. Again, there are layers to it. I just grouped it under leadership. No advancement and growth opportunities. All budgets don't allow for everyone to get raises every year. Your budget is what your budget is, but can people come in and see a growth? Can they go from a level 1 to a level 2? Can they see in the organization that they can do the work and move up and go somewhere else? Or is there a cap? I understand that some positions are capped, but when you have positions that can evolve and grow, are you expressing that? Are you creating that space? I used to train health centers to, if you aren't able to increase salaries, then creating those internal ranking systems like level 1, level 2, and level 3. It boosts morale. If you're at the front desk, and although you may not qualify for front desk manager, what can you be? A team lead? Can you be the lead over this pod? However, you can get creative to let people see that they're doing great work and their great work is being acknowledged, and they're getting more responsibilities and they're getting opportunities to serve as leaders. Because we do want to build up the next generation of leaders in as many ways as possible. We don't want to constrict someone's growth. We really want them to develop, because in the development of the people, that's the development of the organization, which leads to sustainability, increased bottom line, and a strong presence in the community. Time management. I just did a segment on time management Tuesday. We cannot manage time because time is a fixed resource. What we can manage is our energy and our focus. We have 24 hours in a day. X amount of those hours are with you being at work. You know your task, you know what needs your time. There will be those, what I call got a minute moments, where somebody emails you or calls you and say, got a minute, and it pulls you away from your work. But as best as you can get positive control over your schedule and the flow, and what I like to say, the rhythm of your day, the better you can manage your energy and your focus throughout the day to get done what needs to be done. Because time is already managed. It's 24 hours, 60 minutes in the hour, 60 seconds in a minute. And then you put in all of what needs your attention into that fixed set. And that's how you're able to manage it, because you're just essentially managing you and what you focus on. Your mental health, the state of your mental health absolutely is a stressor at work. I am an advocate for getting help when it relates to your mental health. I am an advocate for behavioral health. I am an advocate for therapy. I'm an advocate for a counselor, a friend that you can trust, a spiritual advisor. That's just me, because if it's in our head and it just stays there, then it doesn't necessarily get processed in a way that may be healthy. Not always the case for everyone, but if your mental health needs attention and you don't deal with it outside of work, it will absolutely become worse on top of other stressors within the workplace. Compensation, people can go out and check salary.com and see if they're getting compensated accordingly. Again, I understand that your budget is what your budget is, but making sure people are getting compensated fair market at a fair market rate for their job, for their role, and based on their qualifications is critical. People and personality types, this goes hand in hand with communication. There is a breakdown of personality types where you have people that are more logical thinkers and workers, and you have some that are more analytical and more thorough. And then you have, if you've ever done the DISC assessment in the workplace, people who are more direct, who focus on those who focus on having a good time, those who want to support, whatever the case may be. All of these are just what makes us different. And if we don't acknowledge that everyone communicates different, everyone processes information different, everyone works differently, then it can stress us out. Imagine if your organization was filled with people just like you. Every role was a you. Would the organization grow? Would it be as robust and capable as it is now? So we do want diversity of thinking and speaking and acting and performing and engaging. We want it, we welcome it, we absolutely need it. It is what births creativity and innovation. But if we aren't careful, and if we're so focused on us and how we communicate and process information and work, then we'll make ourselves be the measurement for right versus accepting the differences of everyone else. Because when it all boils down to it, every person at your organization can anchor in one thing, and that's the mission. So if there are disconnects in personality and communication styles, work styles, whatever the case may be, the anchor is in the mission. So whether you're a high D or a high C on the DISC assessment, regardless of where you are on the Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, your work style, whatever you are, when you come into this organization, you are accepting to become one and aligned with this mission. Start there and then move forward with the work that you're doing and how you conduct your meetings and how you communicate with each other. Office politics is a stressor. That is just something that a level of maturity has to be activated. It is easy to talk about things that aren't working well and gossiping and complaining. But if two people are talking and gossiping and complaining and no one stops, then it's not going to stop. So this is something where personal responsibility has to be activated. If you're in the middle of a conversation and that conversation is not uplifting, if it's not positive, if it's not favorable about your colleague or your company or a patient, then the onus is on you as the individual to stop it. Because even if you're listening to it from somebody else, it's stressing you out. And as we saw from earlier, other people's stress and anxiety can absolutely impact the state of your peace. So personal responsibility is not getting involved in those conversations. And lastly, federal policies and regulations is stressful. When you have the federal government telling you, you have to do this by when, this many times, documented as such, send me this report, do it again, this is wrong, that's stressful. So knowing this, now we can move into how can we manage stress from some things we can control and some things we can't. And I'll tell you, of these stressors, the ones that are highlighted now are the ones that are causing the most disruption in the workplace. the workload, the lack of life balance. And you see, I don't say work-life balance because there is no work-life balance. If you are a parent, your child will always be priority over your job. So it's just life balance. Work is part of your life. So being able to balance it as a whole is what we want to strive for. The organizational changes, they're just happening without communication, without ensuring everyone knows what's going on. Leadership, time management, and people and personality types, these are what's leading the forefront right now. So the solution is resiliency. Resiliency, the simplest definition of resiliency is bounce back ability. And I heard that from this lady. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Mary Kay, but it's a cosmetic line that's been around forever. And I was actually in Charleston, South Carolina, and I was a +1 with my friend who sold Mary Kay. And we were at this dinner event, and she's like the top, had the pink Cadillac. She was gorgeous, the jewelry, the makeup, and everyone was sitting around her, just almost as if she was like the queen bee. And they were just listening to every word that she said. And someone asked her, how did she get to where she was? Because everybody sitting at the table aspired to be where she was, a leader in the Mary Kay consulting industry, beauty consulting industry. And they asked her, how did you do it? And she said one word: bounce back ability. She said, regardless of how many no's she got, regardless of how many people told her she wasn't going to be successful, regardless of how much negativity she received for selling just makeup, she bounced back because she kept her eye on the prize. She kept focused on where she wanted to go, and that was to the top. So when it comes to resiliency, even though these things are going to happen, they're going to happen every day. Not all of them, hopefully every day, but this is life. This is work. This is healthcare. This is public health. They're going to happen, but your ability to bounce back from them and take care of you is where we want to get. So before I show what resiliency is, I want to shatter what some myths of resiliency are. Resiliency is not being strong. It does not mean you can take it, be strong, deal with anything, take whatever comes your way, and just roll with it. No, it's not about being strong. Because if you think about it, when people are said to be so strong, then when are they given permission to be weak and get help? So it's not being strong. It's not ignoring anything that's causing you pain or anything that could cause you pain. It's not asking for help. You aren't more resilient because you sit there and lose sleep and stress out because you're doing everything, because you don't want anybody to know that you're in this role and you're a leader and you do need help. You do need another team person. That's not resiliency. And resiliency is not dealing with abuse, emotional abuse, professional abuse, getting taken advantage of in the workplace. That's not resiliency. What resiliency is, it is a strategy to recover from difficult and tough situations. It's a strategy to adapt to life's misfortunes and setbacks. It's a strategy that takes time, patience, practice, and intentionality. It is a strategy to adopt and implement healthy coping skills. It is a strategy for you to enjoy life more. When all those stresses are happening, how can you still bounce back and show up, not ignore, not minimize, not be strong, but how can you still move forward to do the great work that you're called to do? How can you better manage your stress and improve the state of your well-being in spite of these everyday stressors? And anyone can do this. It's not a person who's a wellness advocate or obsessed with people. It's not someone that has a certain personality type. Just because you're a leader doesn't make you more resilient. Just because you're a nurse or a behavioral health specialist, just because you can handle a lot, it doesn't mean that you are guaranteed. Anyone can become more resilient by implementing a few things. So what can we do to promote those things inside the workplace? That's what we're going to get into, you managing your respective stress at all levels, stress being managed at all levels, so you can do what I'm sure your colleagues and your leaders want, and that's for you to stick around and to do the great work that you're doing. So when it comes to becoming more resilient for yourself and managing your stress, a few things that you can do similar to burnout, identifying the specific cause of your stress. I feel so much of what we're talking about today is critical, obviously, but if you just take one thing away, if you only have the mental bandwidth to take one thing away from today's discussion, take away when you're feeling something that doesn't align with how you desire to feel. When you are feeling stressed out, when you're feeling annoyed, agitated, irritated, overwhelmed, bombarded, like you're about to throw the towel in, all of those red flags of stress, if you just pause and get super clear on what the cause of it is or the causes of it, and then focus there and see what can you do about it, you will be made better and you will become healthier in that moment. Because in that moment, it will go from just a problem to affecting you to something that has a solution. Because for every problem, there is a solution. I once heard TD Jakes, he's a pastor down in Texas. He said, I feel like I said Texas, like in a Texas accent, but he's a pastor down in Texas. And he said, if you got a problem that money or man can solve, you don't have a problem. And he was saying man like human beings. So when you're stressed, find the source of it and focus your efforts there to alleviate it and manage it, and you will be well. Don't isolate yourself. There are 43 people on this webinar right now. That is 43 people who said, I need to listen in to this crew. This is now my crew. I want to create a workplace that focuses on employee well-being. I want to deal with burnout. I want to manage my stress. I want to make sure our technology, our HIT doesn't work against us. You got 42 other people that get it. And then you have those within your organizations, your professional network, your community. Don't isolate yourself and allow the worries and the stress to constantly circulate through your mind and don't have anywhere to send them. That's the power of a conversation. That's the power of healthy outlets. So lean into your colleagues who understand what you're dealing with. That is why it's so imperative to create work environments where there is trust. So you can say, hey, today's one of these days, can we talk? Or I need a moment. Can you give me a moment? Asking for permission. That comes with trust. Looking for those solutions in your sphere of influence and control. Once you pinpoint that stressor, if you see there is nothing that you can do about it, detach from it. Accept it and find your peace. Not agree. You're not ignoring it. You're not numbing out. You are accepting the reality of the situation. Just like when it rained outside, if you had plans to go outside and do something, those plans are now altered because it rains. You just accept it. You either go out and get wet or you stay inside. That's how we respond to life. Once we go through these processes, that's why resiliency is a strategy. Keep everything in perspective. Just like the rain, we can't do anything about it. Other people's experiences and point of view, we can't do anything about it. They are allowed to have them. Each one of you are allowed to have your respective experience and your point of view about anything. Emotional intelligence, empathy, and compassion should come in and adjust how you may say it or demonstrate and act with other people, but you are allowed to feel however you want to feel. Nothing has language except the language you give it. That means whatever you call the situation, the stressor, the person, the policy, however you call it, however you describe it, that's what it's going to be. I am not an advocate of toxic positivity, but I am an advocate of proper thinking, to where if you're saying, oh, this is the worst day of my life, I cannot believe it, blah, 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 so shall it be. But if you say, today was intense, there were several things that needed my attention, I'm happy I got through it, I'm going to do everything I can to not have a day like that tomorrow. What can I do? Same situation. It doesn't change your day. It just changed the language you put around it. If there's that person at the sight of their name, you feel your stress level going up. This person drives me crazy. Why do they email me? Why won't they quit? Or you can say, this is the best that they can do. This is their personality. They don't know any other way to communicate. How can I show them how to engage with me? Same situation, the language you put around it makes a world of difference. Establish and consistently practicing self-care rituals. That is whatever you need for you. I have a worksheet at the end I'll show you, and then of course it's going to be in your chatter group. But self-care is however you care for yourself. It is not what sometimes the media makes it all weird to where it's just yoga and meditation. No, those are practices that people can do. But self-care can be reading a book, playing golf, watching sports, going for a walk, taking a bubble bath, sitting in silence, rubbing your dog's belly, whatever the case may be. What it is a moment in time that you are caring for you, that you are focused on you, and you're doing something, you're actively engaged. It doesn't have to be an activity, but you're actively engaged, even if it's just sitting down in something that's caring to you, and that you make time for it. Make time for it. Being intentional about saying Saturdays or Sundays or lunchtime or after work or in the morning before I start my day, I am going to do this for me. That's what self-care is. So establishing it, try several things to see what's your jam, what works for you, and then do it consistently, because you consistently need care. The same way you want patients to come in for preventative care, your annual checkups, we have to do the same thing for ourselves. We do it for our cars. We do it for filters in our home. So we need to do it for ourselves. Everything needs maintenance. Don't neglect you in life and work, and you don't give yourself the proper maintenance that you need so you can function well. Practicing mindfulness, as I said earlier, being present in the moment. Be where your feet are. I think it was Socrates that said it, but I say it so much now, I say it. Be where your feet are. If your feet are in a meeting, be in the meeting. Don't be in the meeting and on the phone and on Facebook and in the email. If you're on a webinar, be on the webinar. It's so much more calmer to be present in the moment than to be scattered in 3 other places. If you're interacting with a patient or a colleague, if you're in your paperwork, be there. That is where balance comes in. That is how you improve the state of your well-being, because you're giving you all of what you need in a moment in time. Avoiding unhealthy outlets, bad food and drink. Now, I know we got those DoorDash gift cards, so you get a pass to have fun with DoorDash. I'm gonna order tacos, you order whatever you wanna order, but no, unhealthy outlets do not serve us well. So that's when you're eating a lot of processed foods and comfort foods, because it's emotional eating, because again, the brain releases that chemical that feel good. We naturally feel good when we're eating food. So being mindful of that. In the moment or when you're hungry, what does your body need? Food is our energy source. Food gives us fuel. So being mindful of that and not using food and drink as a way of escape. Not using food and drink as a way of saying, you know what, I had a rough day, I'm going to treat myself to that. It's not that you can't do it, but everything in moderation. Everything in moderation. And if it's your outlet, your one and only outlet, how can you replace that with a healthy self-care ritual? If you like to go out and eat and sit by yourself or do something like that, can you eat something that's healthier? So again, be creative, figure out what works for you, but figure out what works for you and not against you, and then do that consistently. Talked about gossiping and complaining. Some people think that is an outlet. It's not a healthy outlet. Healthy conversations, expressing your concerns, yes, that's something that can relieve like mental tension, because you're not just thinking about it, you get it out. But if it's constantly complaining and gossiping about the same thing, and you're not solutions oriented, you're not seeking solutions, you're not looking to make the problem better, that's an unhealthy outlet. A poor audio and visual diet. Your diet is what you eat, drink, watch, and listen to. That's the media, that's people, that's what you're scrolling. What are you looking at on your phone? Everything that you put inside of you in some way, shape, or form is going to come out. Whether it's food, it's going to come out giving you energy or taking you energy. If it's drink, is it something that's going to hydrate you or dehydrate you? If it's bad news, is it going to make you sad? Is it going to make you worry? Is it going to make you anxious? Or are you watching something that's uplifting, educational, and inspiring? It is your diet. You're receiving in food and drink and music and books and peoples and conversations all day, every day. As best you can, eat well, watch well, and listen well, because it will serve you well. Set meaningful goals and go through the day with intention. We all have our KPI, key performance indicators, things that you have to do. But when we have something that we're moving towards, that we care about, that we're committed about, you move differently. It's again, that intrinsic motivation. Even at work, what meaningful goals can you set for yourself? Work can be fun. It doesn't have to be torturous and painful and this daunting thing that you do 8 hours a day, especially in healthcare. You're making someone's life better. You're making a family better. You're making a community better. So how can you set some personal goals and professional goals for yourself to do that? And practicing gratitude for the smallest wins. Even if you make it through a meeting and you stay where your feet are and you stay present, you don't get on your phone, celebrate yourself. It builds up the momentum. It keeps you going. It reminds you that everything is not all horrible. Celebrating those small wins. The mind at the same time cannot be grateful and sad. So being in a state of gratitude for all things, there have been moments where I've just sat and I would look around and everything or everyone that I saw, I would just say that I'm grateful for it. It's something I'm grateful about. I'm grateful for technology. I'm grateful for a ring light. I'm grateful for Zoom. I'm grateful forever. I'm grateful, like at that moment, I can't think about what's not working or the projects that need to be done. So practicing gratitude is a strategy for resiliency. When it comes to your team, again, work that is meaningful. The mission and the vision is meaningful, and it's what they're doing is connected. If you have that index card and the mission statement is here and they can't find anything to put on the other side, we need to spend some time there. Or if they're working on a project, a task, or doing something, and you can't see how it's advancing that mission, spend some time there. As a team, connecting with each other, you can talk about non-work related things. Sharing laughs. It doesn't always have to be serious. I did say funny pics and videos that are appropriate during downtime. So I'm not promoting slacking off from work or anything like that, but your people like to laugh. I think most people like to laugh. I've never met anyone that doesn't like to laugh. But connecting with your team on non-work related stuff. You're at work all day long, and I'm sure these are things that you're doing, but again, that helps you become more resilient, because you may have that one person in your office that you know if you go in their office or their cubicle that you're going to get a good laugh. That's good. That's healthy. That's what changes cultures inside organizations. Auditing those workloads like we talked about for balance and alignment of skill set. As a team, creating a safe, trusting, and inclusive environment where everyone's still seen and heard. We've talked about that, but something can happen, and a person's comfort to address it with the team is truly a way that they are becoming more resilient, because now we're bringing light to a situation. So creating those environments, and this environment is created with you, with each individual person doing their part to make sure the other person feels seen and heard. That work environment, discussing what's working and what's not working. This isn't always easy, but it's necessary. Again, just because you've been doing it a certain way for so long does not make it right. It just makes it a habit or a pattern. So having an environment to where you can talk about processes, workloads, technology, whatever the case may be, that helps when it comes to the one of your resilient strategies. Because if you have a process that everyone is doing every day and no one agrees with it or don't see the value in it, that's stressful. Now we just have to do this and it doesn't work. Now here's another thing I can complain about. Everything just builds upon the next. Holding each other accountable, that's creating that safe environment. It's okay to follow up and follow through in a respectful manner. But again, like I said earlier, managing those expectations. If you say that you're going to do something, then by when and what does it look like to get it done? And being okay if a colleague asks you for a status update or asks for the completed project. It's work. Work have start and finish date. Projects have start and finish dates. Watching for those signs of burnout amongst each other. That's where letting your teammates know what it may look like if they haven't even already seen it over the last 2 years. And again, when you've created that safe environment, you can check in on your person. Celebrating each other's wins, partnering for healthy activities like mindful walks, doing those check-ins, mindful moments, stretch breaks, whatever the case may be, taking a moment to just breathe and come out of the stressful work environment and just recenter yourself and help yourself get to a state of calm. And doing it with a partner is always helpful. And then being mindful of cliques and excluding team members. That's the opposite of inclusion. And we naturally click with people that we have things aligned with. That's why affinity groups are powerful. But the click to where someone feels that they aren't part of a team when they are part of a team, that's stressful for that individual. So being mindful of that. And then as we bring all of this to a close, the organization, ensure that everyone knows how to recognize burnout and asking supportive questions. What type of support can I give you? How can I help? And avoiding why questions. When we ask someone why, it tends to create a defense within ourselves. Why didn't you finish that? Why didn't you give me a call? Why did you and versus saying, what's an update on that? What can I do to support you next time to meet this deadline? It's a different tone and it will be received differently than starting with why. So making sure your team and as a company, you are okay checking in on each other, not intrusively, not in an awkward way that's not genuine, but realizing that you all need each other each day to get the job done. Promoting those wellness initiatives in the organization. For the sake of time, we won't go into a discussion, but I'd love for you, if you have any wellness initiatives that you do, share it in the chat. Share ideas with each other, because a lot of organizations just don't know what to do. It can be sessions like this. It can be having that quiet room or creating a space for people to disconnect. So share any wellness initiatives that you do in the chat with your team members here. Hosting sessions to empower and develop the total person. That's what a session like this is. This is focusing on you as a person and not just front desk training or EHR training. Even communication training, that's a technical skill, but with that, it'll help the total person. So, we often refer to them as hard and soft skills. That's the term we're kind of getting away from because we see soft skills sometimes matter more than the hard skills. So creating the space for people to be developed as a person and having that open door policy, creating outlets for employees to de-stress, quiet rooms, mental health days, HR, filling vacancies as quickly as possible. I know where we are right now, but from a workforce standpoint, auditing those workflows, streamlining automation, these are things to just keep stress down. Providing training outside of technical skills, communication, conflict resolution, coaching, effective one-on-ones. What do people need to be great? And then providing that for them. What do people really need to do their job better? Few people don't know how to do their job. More people don't know how to connect with people that are different from them, think different from them, and speak differently from them. Focus on that as well as the technical skills. And within the organization, creating wellness champions and ambassadors and promoting wellness initiatives at all levels, and report feedback from the staff. Don't let staff come up with an idea and then it's dismissed and we never talk about it again. Even if you have to park and lot it or say, I heard you, we'll get to it when at the appropriate time, do that. So as I bring this to a head, you are essential, you are needed. Your organizations want you to stick around and stay at the organization. And one of the ways that you can just take care of your personal well-being, you will get that worksheet, but I want you to remember why you started. When you get a moment, think back to that day one. Think back to that moment when you said yes to the position and how you felt and how optimistic you were and what you look forward to. Every day isn't going to be perfect. Some days will be more intense than others, but you are in this role for a reason. And don't lose sight of that in the midst of everything that's happening. And when you get this worksheet, use this as the launch to your new self-care routine. It's some simple questions. What are some weekly self-care practices you can do? What are things that you love to do? Because sometimes you forget what you love to do because you're so focused on taking care of everyone else. What healthy foods will you eat? And what are 3 meaningful goals for you? Work related, personal, it doesn't matter. And then say, how will you hold yourself accountable? Because we always want to have a checkpoint. So that's going to be sent to you. And lastly, I want to remind you, remember your cup. You are the cup, and everything that you give of other people should come from the overflow that you have. So if your cup isn't full and you're constantly pouring out into other people, being of service, being a listening ear, coaching, teaching, leading from an empty cup, then you will be depleted. You will be drained. So keep yourself filled up, and everything extra is what you're giving other people. So that way you're good and they're getting the greatness that's coming out of you. So you can't do everything at once. Focus on what's important and most impactful. Do not leave this cohort and try to change everything that you've learned. Be kind to yourself, to others as well. And remember, you got this. There is nothing that you cannot do. You are more than capable. And if there's anything that I can do to support you or your team during this time and in the future, here's all my contact information, website, email, and my YouTube channel. I invite you to go check out a few videos. And I'm just here. I'd love to be in touch with you. And I will hand it back over to Eva, and she will wrap us up.
Thank you so much, April. I think only provided some much needed inspiration, but also just some really helpful and useful tools that we can all take back to our organizations. And as April mentioned, all of the resources and her slides will be on the chatter, so you'll have access to that as well. I know that we are at time. For those of you who can stick around for a few more minutes, I have a couple things to share with you just in terms of details about wrapping up the program in terms of final coaching sessions, etc. I will follow up with an email though and put it all in the chatter if you do have to leave. The session evaluation has also been launched, so please make sure that you fill that out before you leave for the day. So just want to make sure that everyone has scheduled their final coaching sessions with their coach. You should have those scheduled kind of between now and the first couple of weeks of February. Make sure that you're continuing to work on those interventions, reaching out to your coach as needed with any questions or a need for resources. We did schedule a session for teams to share their interventions with each other. And we decided to push it out a little bit just so that you have more time to work on them, and we can kind of see maybe hopefully some teams will be into implementation and we can see how that's going. So that'll be on Thursday, March 31st at noon, so kind of our normal time. Crystal has put the link to RSVP in the chat. So please make sure that you register for that. I think it'll be a great time to see all of the hard work that everyone's been putting in and all of the different interventions that teams are working on, because they're really interesting and important. And so I want to make sure that we have time to talk about that. Please continue to use the chatter. That's a great resource. You can continue to communicate with each other, ask questions, share resources, communicate with the CCALAC team as well. That's there for you to use even after the program has finished. And then also wanted to share this with you that we have launched the Workforce Resource Toolkit on the CCALAC website. So that's a page that has a breadth of resources from sample job descriptions to loan repayment guides to JEDI resources. There are a lot of resources there. We'll continue to add to it. So make sure that you take a look at that and just kind of browse through, because there may be some very helpful resources there. And the link is also in the chat for that. Can we go to the next slide, please? So now that we're at the end of the program, we would love to hear from you about not only kind of what you enjoyed, what you found to be the most helpful, room for improvement, but also maybe how you've used some of the things that we've learned throughout these 6 sessions together. This is how, we we'll be able to create future iterations of this program, make it better, more helpful. This is really supposed to be whatever is most helpful and impactful for you. So we'd love to hear from you, get that information so that we can continue to create new programs to support teams throughout, especially this time that's been really stressful and has posed a lot of challenges. So if you could please fill out this survey, we would love to get that information from you. Also, after you fill out the survey is when we will send that stipend to your clinic team, as well as we're going to send each clinic sort of a box of giveaways. This slide is sort of a teaser to what you'll be receiving in that box, just some sort of self-care items and things for your clinic to use for stress relief and just to, you know, have some sort of nice things to share with your clinic after the program. So make sure that you fill out that evaluation and that you include the address that you'd like the giveaways sent to, as well as who they should be addressed to. There will also be a field in the evaluation to enter in your email to receive a Starbucks gift card as well. So a lot of fun things that will come after, you know, putting that time in. We really appreciate your feedback. And that's how we are able to create programs that to support your teams. And I think that's it. But I just wanted to thank you all so much for your engagement and your participation in our first ever crew cohort. It's been wonderful to hear from you, to learn together, to create this space for us all to, you know, navigate this extremely challenging landscape that we find ourselves in currently. But please feel free to continue reaching out, sharing resources, and just wanted to thank you and hope that we all, you know, stay in community together.